Okay, so, everybody wants to stay ahead of the curve, see what's coming next, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about something today that, well, you might not think about it too much, but it's changing the way things are made. Like, even just something as basic as a paper planner,
Yeah.
the ones you use to keep track of your schedule. I mean, everyone's used one at some point, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Anyway, today we're diving deep into how manufacturing itself is changing and how it's all playing out in the world of custom paper planners. And to do that, we're going to be looking at information from Lion Paper.
That's right. They're a pretty big player in this whole thing. We're going to be looking specifically at what they're doing with flexible manufacturing.
Yeah, flexible manufacturing. So, maybe you're thinking, okay, planners, manufacturing, why should I care?
Right.
But here's the thing. Have you ever, wanted something that was truly personalized,
Yeah.
made just for you? This is kind of about that. It's
Yeah.
about how businesses are getting better at making things that are really tailored to individual needs. In a way, it's about efficiency, but on a really personal level, and that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're getting at today. We're trying to, break down this idea of flexible manufacturing, see what's going on with it, especially in the world of paper planners. What are the benefits? How does it all work? And, most importantly, how does this actually affect you?
All right, so let's jump in with the basics. What exactly are we talking about when we say flexible manufacturing? What does that even mean?
Well, it's basically it's a way of producing things that lets companies change what they're making really quickly based on, what people want. Think about a typical factory, right?
Yeah.
Big, huge assembly lines churning out the same thing over and over.
Yeah, thousands, millions of the same thing.
Exactly. Now, imagine you want to change just one little detail about that thing. Traditionally, that meant retooling those entire mats of assembly lines, which was super time-consuming and expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine. Not very efficient.
Right. So that's where flexible manufacturing comes in. It's about being able to adapt and make changes without, this huge disruption.
Okay, so less mass production, more, flexibility. Got it. So what are the big ideas, the principles that actually make this flexibility possible?
Right. Well, there are three core ideas here. First, you've got adaptability. So that's the ability to easily switch between, let's say, different planner designs,
Right.
based on what's trending or what people are asking for.
Okay, makes sense. What's next?
Second, you've got efficiency, because when you're changing things up, you don't want a ton of downtime, right?
Yeah.
You want those changes to happen quickly and smoothly to keep the cost down.
Right, right. So keep things moving. And the third principle,
This one's really important. It's waste reduction. The idea is you only make what you actually need when you need it.
so no more warehouses full of stuff that nobody's buying.
Exactly. Especially in a fast-moving market like custom planners, where trends change all the time. You don't want to get stuck with a bunch of outdated designs.
Okay, I see the value in that. Now, how about some real-world examples? How does a company like Lion Paper, the one we talked about, actually put these ideas into practice?
So Lion Paper, they've got these production facilities in China and Cambodia, right? And they've set things up specifically for flexible manufacturing. This gives them and their customers some really big advantages.
Like what would be, a real-world advantage for someone who's saying, I want to make my own custom planners? What does this system give them that they wouldn't have otherwise?
Well, one of the biggest things is low minimum order quantities.
Low MOQs.
Right, that's huge
Yep.
because it means businesses, even small ones, can try out new designs or maybe cater to a really specific niche market without having to order, thousands and thousands of planners right off the bat.
I see. So you could test the waters, so to speak, without sinking a ton of money into a product that might not sell.
Exactly. And it opens up a lot of creative possibilities. Like, let's say you have this amazing idea for a planner, but you're not sure if it'll be a hit. With low MOQs, you can do a small run, see how it goes, without risking a warehouse full of unsold planners.
That's really smart. That's a big barrier to entry removed for, well, anyone who wants to get into the planner game.
For sure. And another thing they offer is, the ability to make design changes really quickly.
Okay, so if one type of layout or cover suddenly becomes super popular, they can just pivot and start making that?
Pretty much. They're not stuck with whatever they decided on months ago. They can adapt to the market as it changes.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Like they're staying ahead of the trend instead of chasing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then think about seasonal planners, right?
Oh yeah, back to school, holiday themed, all that.
Right. Those are time sensitive, right?
Yeah.
You need them ready for a specific time of year. Well, Lion Paper can turn those around really quickly, like in a few weeks.
Okay, so they're meeting those really specific demands. I remember you mentioned something about a boutique stationery brand that benefited from these low MOQs. What was their story?
Yeah, so this stationery brand, they needed like 500 personalized planners for a company event, right?
Right.
But when they went to the usual manufacturers, the minimum order was something like 5,000 planners.
10 times what they needed.
Yeah. So they were kind of stuck. But with Lion Paper, they could get exactly the amount they needed. No wasted planners, no huge upfront cost. I mean, think about it. It used to be that only the big players could really afford to do custom stuff like that.
Right, right. But this levels the playing field a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Now anyone, even a small brand, can get into the game.
I like that. So it's not just about the business side of things. It actually gives more options to customers, more variety, more unique stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've seen how flexible manufacturing works in practice. But what's the technology that actually makes it all happen?
Well, there are three main technologies. The first one is, everyone's heard of it, automation.
Automation, right. But what does that mean specifically when we're talking about making paper planners?
Well, in this case, it's all about using machines to do tasks that people used to do by hand. So, things like binding the planner, cutting the paper, putting all the pieces together.
So basically, robots doing the heavy lifting.
Kinda, yeah. And this has a couple of big advantages. It makes things a lot faster, which saves money on labor, and it also leads to more consistent quality. In fact, some studies have shown that factories using automation can increase productivity by like 50% and reduce costs by around 20%.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And Lion Paper uses automation in a lot of their processes. Like I said, binding, cutting, assembling, all of that's automated. So they can scale production up or down depending on how many orders they have.
So they're not wasting time or materials making stuff they don't need.
Right. And their customers can order exactly how much they need, no more, no less.
Makes sense. So that's automation. What's the next technological piece of the puzzle?
So the next one is digital printing. This has been, well, kind of a revolution in custom manufacturing.
Okay, digital printing. I mean, we all use printers, but how is it different from, the old school way of printing?
So think about how printing used to work. You had to create these big metal plates for each design.
Right, I've seen those.
And those plates were expensive and time-consuming to make, especially if you were only doing a small run of something. But with digital printing, it's more like printing from your computer, except on a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
You go straight from the digital file to the paper.
So no more expensive cleats.
Right. So for you, the customer, it means that you can get custom designs like a planner with your own artwork or a special quote on it without breaking the bank.
Okay, I see. It makes small, personalized orders much more affordable. So what else does digital printing bring to the table?
Well, first, you can get some really complex, detailed designs, even on small batches.
So you're not limited in terms of creativity.
Right. Second, since you're not printing tons of extra copies, there's way less waste.
So it's better for the environment, too.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, it allows for some really unique personalization. Like you could have 1,000 planners, each with a different name printed on it, or a different quote, or even a slightly different layout.
So really tailoring each planner to the individual, that's amazing. Do you have an example of how Lion Paper is using digital printing for this kind of thing?
Yeah, so let's say you have an online retailer that wants to sell personalized planners. Maybe they want to offer like 1,000 different cover designs.
1,000, wow.
Right. Now, with traditional printing, they'd have to print thousands of copies of each design just to make it cost effective. And they'd probably end up with a ton of unsold planners.
Yeah, that's a lot of waste.
Exactly. But with digital printing, Lion Paper can do small on-demand runs. So maybe they print just a few of each design to start with, and then print more as needed.
So much more efficient and less wasteful. Okay, so we've got automation for speed and efficiency, digital printing for customization and waste reduction. What's the third big technology?
The third one is robotics.
Robotics, huh? I usually think of robots building cars or something. How are they being used in something as, well, delicate as making a paper planner?
Well, maybe not the huge robots you see in car factories, but robots are really good at doing things very precisely. So they're used in things like cutting the materials for the planner, binding everything together perfectly, and even doing quality control checks to make sure each planner meets a certain standard.
So it's about precision and quality control.
Right. Because robots can do the same thing over and over again perfectly, you get really consistent quality even when you're doing custom designs.
Okay, so robots help ensure high quality, even when things are personalized. Do you have an example of how Lion Paper uses robotics?
Sure. Let's say a wholesaler in the US wants to order a bunch of planners with some really specific features.
Okay, like what kind of features?
I don't know, maybe they want elastic bands in a specific color or pen loops in a particular place. In the past, this kind of customization would have taken a lot of time because it would involve more manual work.
Right. So slower production times.
Yeah, but Lion Paper, they use robotic assembly lines that can be adjusted really quickly to incorporate these custom details. And because the robots are so precise, they can do it really fast and accurately.
Okay, so they're saving time and getting it right the first time.
Exactly. And in some cases, they've seen production times go down by as much as 30% compared to traditional factories.
That's a big difference. Okay, so we've got a good grasp now of what flexible manufacturing is and the tech behind it. Now let's bring it all home. Why does all of this matter to someone who's just, looking for a good planner? What are the real benefits for the customer?
Well, there are a few really important ones. First, like we talked about, there's less waste and more efficiency. When companies make planners on demand, they don't have tons of extra planners sitting around.
Which saves them money, right?
Right. And it's also better for the environment because they're not using resources to make things that nobody's going to buy.
Yeah. Sustainability is a big deal these days.
Absolutely. And another big benefit is that companies can adapt to trends much faster. So if you're someone who likes to stay on top of the latest styles or features, you're more likely to find what you're looking for.
So that back-to-school planner will actually be on trend when school starts.
Exactly. And the same goes for holiday planners or those branded corporate gifts. They can be designed and produced much closer to when they're actually needed.
That's smart, so less chance of ending up with a product that feels dated.
Exactly.
Now, all this talk about flexibility and speed makes me wonder, does this affect the quality of the planners themselves?
Not at all. In fact, because of the technology involved, like the automation and robotics we talked about, quality control is actually often better with flexible manufacturing. And of course, you get more customization options, which is always a good thing.
So you're not sacrificing quality for speed or personalization.
Nope, you can have all three.
That's impressive. Now let's talk about price. Does flexible manufacturing make custom planners more or less expensive?
This is where it gets really interesting, especially for different types of businesses. Basically, flexible manufacturing lets companies scale their production in a really cost-effective way.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So for small businesses or startups, they can start with really small production runs, which keeps their initial costs down.
Lower risk, lower investment.
Right. And for bigger companies, they can scale up production really quickly without all the usual delays and headaches.
So everyone benefits.
Exactly. And there's a really good example of this with a U.S. online retailer that was selling custom planners. They want to offer name engraving, which is really personalized. But instead of ordering like 1,000 engraved planners up front, they were able to use Lion Paper's system to make them on demand as customers ordered them.
So they only made what they knew they could sell.
Right. And this ended up saving them something like 35% on their upfront costs.
Wow, that's a significant amount.
Yeah. So it really shows how flexible manufacturing can help businesses be more efficient and save money, which ultimately can lead to better prices for the customer.
That's a win-win. Now, we mentioned earlier that Lion Paper has factories in both China and Cambodia. How does having two different locations play into this whole flexible manufacturing thing?
Well, it's actually a really strategic advantage.
Yeah.
Their factory in China is known for its really high-quality craftsmanship. So that's where they make planners with intricate designs and specific branding elements where the details are super important.
So top-notch quality.
Yeah. And their Cambodia factory, it's more geared towards cost-efficient production. Plus, there are no tariffs on goods coming from Cambodia to the U.S., which is a big deal for a lot of their customers.
So it's about finding the right balance between quality and cost effectiveness.
Exactly. And having two locations also gives them more flexibility for testing new products. So a company can start with a small run in China where they can get those really high-quality details just right.
And then if the product does well, they can move production to Cambodia to scale up.
Exactly. So it's a really smart system.
Okay, so to wrap things up from Lion Paper's perspective, what are the key takeaways they want people to understand about their flexible manufacturing capabilities?
Well, they really want to emphasize a few things. First, the low MOQs and small batch production, which give companies a lot of freedom to try new things.
Without breaking the bank.
Right. Second, their ability to make changes quickly and do custom designs on demand.
So they can keep up with the trends and offer a lot of personalization options.
Yep. Third, they want people to know that they're really good at controlling costs so they can offer good prices without sacrificing quality.
And it sounds like they're also committed to sustainability, which is great.
Absolutely.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive into flexible manufacturing, what have we learned?
I think the big takeaway is that this is changing the game for custom paper planners. It's making the whole process more efficient, it's giving companies more options, and it's allowing them to create products that are truly personalized for the customer.
And it's not just about planners, right? This is happening in all sorts of industries.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So as you're listening to this, think about it. What other things could be made this way? What other products could be customized and personalized on demand? It's kind of exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
It was great talking about this.
It was fun. And for all of you listening out there, keep your eyes open. You might be surprised at what you start seeing popping up that's made with this amazing new approach to manufacturing.
You never know what's coming next.
Exactly. Until next time.
See ya.